Hello grade 10s and welcome back. Today we are looking at March test. We are going to be doing a past paper as a revision. Without any waste of time, let's just quickly look at the question. This was taken from a cluster paper in Pretoria. So we have the following questions. Question number 1.1, round off 943.73809 5 to 1 to 2 decimal places, right? That's actually a 2. So ladies and gentlemen, without wasting of time, let's quickly do it. Right, I'll just quickly copy the question quickly. The first question that we see down there is round off this number to 2 decimal places. Just a moment. Let me just sort out my lighting. That looks better. Right, 1.1. Let us round off 943.738095 to 2 decimal places. Right, ladies and gentlemen, number 1, all one needs to do is write this one. Okay, so our focus is 2 decimal places. So we are going to look at this number right here. These are the 2 decimals that we want to round off to. And then we look at the third number. You know that if it is greater than or equal to 5, then you are going to add 1 to this one. So because it is greater and also equal to 5, then we are going to add 1 to the previous digit. So round it off to 2 decimal places. This becomes 943.74. Just like that. 1.2. For 1.2, we are given that Q is B squared minus 4AC. Determine the value of Q if A is 2, B is minus 1, and C is minus 4. This is for 2 marks. Again, Q is the square root of B squared minus 4AC. Right, whereby A is 2, B is minus 1, and our C we have minus 4. Right, so the first thing that one needs to do here, grade 10s, very simple. Substitute 1.2.1. You'll have Q is equals to the square root of, right, making the substitution, I'm just going to use a red pen, 2, then this 2 carries an exponent of squared, minus 4, then whenever I substitute, I put brackets, my A is a 2, and then my C is a minus 4. Right, this is my substitution, which guarantees your first mark. Then ladies and gentlemen, use your calculator. You should find that this gives us the square root of 33. Then grade 10s, 1.2.2. We are given the state whether Q is rational or irrational. State whether Q is rational or irrational. Right, you should recall that rational numbers are numbers that can be written as fractions, or those are decimals that are terminating or recurring. So if you look at root 33, this is a set which cannot be simplified further. Therefore, it means Q is irrational. To confirm this, punch it in the calculator and rewrite it as a decimal and look at the decimals. If they repeat in a particular sequence, then it must be rational, or if they terminate, they also must be rational. However, If that's not the case, then it mathematically means it's irrational, just as it is in this case. 1.3.3. The question comes to us now to say, between which two integers does q lie? Okay, step number one, we look at the type of root that q is. We see that q is a square root, so it means we are going to have to focus on squares. Grade 10s. Then quickly, let me just do something. So I'm just going to list all my squares. Then rewriting my squares, I know I have 1. Let me just say x. Then this side I take x squared. Then this side I take the square root of x squared. So if my number is a 1, then my 1 squared is 1. My square root of 1 is 1 again. Right, the second square is going to be 2. 2 squared is a 4. The square root of 4 gives me back my 2. Then I'll have 3. 3 squared is a 9. The square root of 9 is a 3. Then I just want to write this for the first 10 perfect squares. So 4 squared is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. Then I do it for 5. This gives me 5. 25. Square root of 25. This gives me a 5. You will notice that a number, when it is squared and then you take the square root of that number, you get the number back. We also have 6. 6 squared is 36. Square root of 36, we expect to get 6. Right, 7 squared is 49. Square root of 49, we get our 7 back. Then we'll have 8. 8 squared is 64. That should give us an 8 back. Then 9 squared is 81. That should give us a 9 back. Then lastly, 10 squared is 100. Then the square root of 100 gives us our 10 back. Right, so what's the reason I do this, grade 10s? Simple. I know that the q that is given to me is root 33. So how one needs to answer this is, first rewrite this without a root. So without a root, root 33 becomes 33 without the root. What one needs to do now, the notation is such that that first integer must be less than this, but the second one must be greater than this 33. Then I have to go to my perfect squares. These are my perfect squares. Then I'm going to look for the two perfect squares with which the 33 lies. 33 without a root, so it means these numbers without roots, right? It can be between 1 and 4. It can be between 4 and 9, 9 and 6, and 4 and 9, nope. 16 and 25, no. But I expect it to be between 25 and 36. So now I have identified my 33. 33 is greater than 25, but it is less than 36. So I expect it to be between these two perfect squares. Therefore, I'm going to write my first perfect square, the lowest first, which is 25, then the highest, which is 36. Then all one needs to do now, introduce the square root back. Then when I introduce the square root back, grade 10s, this is what is going to happen. Then now, this becomes much simpler. I know that the square root of 25 is 5. So this simply means the square root of 25 is 5. This one, you just leave it as it is. The square root of 33. Then the square root of 36. Again, you need to know this. Square root of 36 is simply a 6. Therefore, we'll have a 6 here. Then it means that the square root of 33 lies between 5 and 6. And again, if you read the question clearly, they told us that these two numbers must be consecutive. Two consecutive numbers, and it is in the case that because we have 5 and 6, which are numbers that follow each other. Right. Okay, let us move on. Next questions, we are going to have to simplify. Simplify grade 10s. So we are given x minus 2 multiplied by x squared plus 5x minus 1. And then it's a question of simplify. Simplify meaning what? Rewrite it in a much simpler form without changing its mathematical meaning. So the question goes as follows: 1.3.1 x, right, x minus 2, which should be multiplied by x squared plus 5x minus 1. These grade 10s, I always say whenever I see brackets tell me that I should multiply, and I like to think of it in this way. I'm first going to multiply the signs, and then I multiply the coefficients. Sometimes it can be the numbers which are referred to as constants. Then lastly, I'm going to look at multiplying variables. Right, excuse me. So I'm going to multiply signs, coefficients, and variables lastly. So when I look at the sign, I distribute the x into the second bracket. And then I'm going to do the same with the negative 2, distribute it into the second bracket. That grade 10s will give me the following. If I look at it in terms of signs, I see there's a positive. I multiply with the positive, so my answer is a positive. And then I'm going to have x times x, or rather 1 times 1, which gives me 1. No need to write it down. Then x times this x squared, giving me x cubed. Then I go again, positive times a positive. I expect to get a positive. X times 5x, I get 5x squared. Then positive times a negative, now it gives me a negative. Then x times 1, I get an x. Then I do the same now. I'm going to use a red pen which shows the red arrows. Negative times positive gives me a negative. 2 times x squared, I get a 2x squared. Then negative with this positive, I still get a negative. 2 times 5x, I get a 10x. Then lastly, negative times a negative, I get a positive. Then 2 times 1, I get a 2. Right. Then from here, we just need to look if we have like terms. Like terms are terms with the same variables. Then if I can check, I have this positive 5x squared with this negative 2x squared. I also have this negative x right here, which joins with this negative 10x. Right, so it means the x cubed goes alone. I'm left with x cubed. Right, if I consider these two, I'm going to look at the coefficients. 5x minus 2x squared. I mean 5 minus 2, that gives me a positive 3x squared. Then I have a negative x and a negative 10x. Signs are the same, so I'm going to keep the same sign, which is negative, and then add x plus 10 is 11x. Then lastly, the 2 goes alone. I have a plus 2. Right, grade 10s, we have simplified that one. Let's do the last one, then I'll continue the rest in the next video. 1.3.2, again a question on simplify. Question number 2, we have 2/3 multiplied by 6 into 6x squared minus 7x divided by 2 plus 1 and 3/4. So the question is 2/3 multiplied by 6x squared minus 7x divided by 2 plus 1 and 3/4. Ladies and gentlemen, before I continue with this, I'm just going to have to rewrite this mixed fraction as an improper fraction. I know that a third, 1 3/4, I have to multiply with the whole number. The answer that I get here, I add to the denominator, to the numerator, and I keep the denominator. So this becomes 4 times 3 plus 1. Everything should be divided by the denominator here, which is 4. Right, that simplifies to 4 times 3. Wait, 4 times 1. This is a 1 plus a 3 here. 4 times a 1, which is a 4 plus 3. It's a 7 divided by 4. Pardon me on that one. So which means that this simplifies to 2/3 multiplied by 6x squared minus 7x by 2 plus 7 divided by 4. Right, ladies and gentlemen, while we are still there, let's simplify that. Right, so this will give us, again, we multiply everything. This is the distribution. Right, whenever we multiply numerators, we multiply together. So I'll have 2/3 multiplied by 6x squared divided by 1 minus 2/3 multiplied by 7x divided by 2 plus 2/3 multiplied by 7 by 4. Right, ladies and gentlemen, again, multiplication, multiply across numerators, across denominators, across numerator, across denominator, across numerator, across denominator. Quickly, that should give us, we'll have 2 times 6x squared, which gives us 12x squared divided by 3. Then negative 2 times 7x, it's 14x divided by 3 times 2, which is a 6. Then plus 2 times 7, we get a 14 divided by a 12. Therefore, this will definitely simplify to something simpler. This, we see 12 divided by 3 gives us a 4 with x squared. Then we have negative. Simplifying this further, it means the highest common factor here should be a 2. 14 divided by 2, it's 7x divided by 3. Then plus, again, dividing this by 2, my highest common factor will have 7 divided by 6. So 2 goes 7 times into 14 and then 6 times into 12. Okay, then we have actually simplified this. Okay, great. I will continue the rest in the next video. Stay tuned.